After being reborn together with my best friend, Sophia, I noticed something strange. She dressed exactly as I had in my previous life, repeating the very words I once said, all for the sake of winning over my ex-husband from my past life. At the engagement party, she appeared in a stunning gown, exuding arrogance as she declared, "Sorry, Emily, but I want to experience this life of luxury too." Watching her smug expression, I couldn't help but laugh. Luxury? She had no idea about the treacherous waters of high society. Without absolute strength, she wouldn't gain riches but would be torn apart, leaving not even a fragment of her dignity behind. I smiled at her and said calmly, "Don't worry, I won't fight you for this so-called fortune." Then, I woke up, back in my university days. Ecstatic, I rushed to share this miraculous event with Sophia, only to be lured into the restroom, where she locked me inside. "Emily, do you remember what day it is?" she asked, a smirk on her face. "The day you meet Lucas," I replied cautiously. "Exactly, the first step to marrying into a wealthy family." The joy of rebirth began to fade as I turned pale. "What are you doing? Let me out." Ignoring my pleas, Sophia casually applied her makeup while speaking smugly. "Lucas loves simple, elegant outfits and demure, obedient personalities. I remember all those details perfectly. This time, Lucas will definitely fall for me." Hearing her barely contained laughter, I sank onto the toilet seat, powerless. "Sophia, you can't do this. Lucas is my husband, you can't take him away." Her laughter grew louder. She finished dressing and stood outside the restroom door, looking triumphant. "Don't worry. Soon, he'll be my husband. Relax. Once I marry into wealth, I won't forget you. I'll treat you just like you treated me in our past life." With that, she left, closing the dorm room door behind her. A few seconds later, I burst into uncontrollable laughter, tears streaming down my face. How had I not noticed in my previous life just how foolish my so-called best friend was? She thought I'd bestowed things upon her? She had no clue that the money I lent her was from my personal savings. As Lucas's obedient, manipulated wife, not a single penny of the family fortune truly belonged to me. Sophia had only ever seen the polished facade I presented to the world, oblivious to the pretense I maintained to save face. The world of high society was dark and chaotic, riddled with complex and toxic relationships. During my 10 years of marriage to Lucas, I regretted every single day. Trapped as a puppet, I couldn't even dream of divorce. Yet Sophia, in her naivety, believed I led a carefree and glamorous life as a wealthy wife. After graduation, she never worked, often borrowing money from me. I had chosen to step into the abyss, and all I could do was pretend to be content. She even asked me to introduce her to Lucas's friends, hoping to marry into wealth like I had. I politely declined, thinking of Lucas's vile associates, who were no better than he was. She took my refusal as jealousy, claiming I didn't want her to succeed. After a period of Cold War, she shamelessly came back to borrow money again. I gave her my last savings, 50,000 yuan, but she called it too little and lashed out at me. During our argument, we accidentally fell off a second-floor balcony together. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in my university dorm room. The hard wooden bed was a stark contrast to my usual comforts, but I couldn't have been happier. I had been reborn. This was my impossible chance to escape the abyss. And Sophia, that fool, was willingly rushing to meet Lucas, the very man who had ruined my life. If she was so eager to shield me from disaster, how could I not give her a helping hand? After my other 2 roommates returned and freed me from the restroom, they thought someone had bullied me. But I simply took a deep breath, savoring the freedom. Ah, the air in the restroom is so much better than anything Lucas or his so-called high society could ever offer. After stepping out, I began sorting through the memories of my previous life. I had so many choices to make, so many shortcuts unknown to others. But just as I started planning, my father called, saying there was an urgent matter at home. This hadn't happened in my past life. Since my home was only an hour away, I rushed back. To my shock, I found my father standing with Grace, Sophia's mother. "Your Grace and I are planning to get married," my father announced. Grace had been my late mother's best friend, often bringing Sophia over to play when we were young. After my mother's car accident a few years ago, Grace treated me like her own daughter. I was grateful to her, but now, seeing her and my father together, I couldn't shake the unease. Sophia's father had been absent all her life, and now, my father wanted to marry her mother. My father's next words pulled me from my thoughts. "Sophia just called me. She seems to be in some sort of trouble and didn't want you delaying her. Stay home for the next couple of days." Frowning, I asked, "Why is she calling you?" "Once Grace and I marry, Sophia will be my daughter too." "What's strange about her calling me?" Watching his agitated expression, something clicked. All those years, I'd never met Sophia's father. Neighbors whispered that Grace had been a single mother. But my father always showed them exceptional care, often prioritizing Sophia over me. He'd even tried to convince me as a child, "Grace is your mother's best friend. Raising Sophia alone isn't easy. We need to take care of them. Sophia doesn't have a father. You should give way to her more often." In my past life, I adhered strictly to the principles ingrained in my very being. Even though my marriage was unhappy, I continued to support Sophia financially. I treated her like a real sister, but the moment she was reborn, she schemed to steal my husband. She even went out of her way to call my father, asking him to keep an eye on me so I wouldn't ruin her plans. And my father? Without any hesitation, he took Sophia's side. I suddenly started to wonder, who was really his biological child? Or maybe, for the next 2 days, I obediently stayed home, all to gather strands of my father's hair. 2 days later, I returned to school and did the same for Sophia. When the DNA test results came back, it confirmed that they were indeed father and daughter. The moment I held the report in my hands, I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. In my previous life, I wanted to divorce Lucas, but he used my family and friends to threaten me, forcing me to remain a puppet. Family, my father and Grace. Friends, Sophia. For those 3 people, I stayed in the Lucas family, wasting 10 years of my youth and freedom. Looking back now, it was all a joke. Luckily, I've been reborn. This time, no one can tie me down. I sold the house my mother left me and received a large sum of money. Without hesitation, I went to a small, hidden corner of the city. "Miss Emily, are you really planning to invest in our company?" In a tiny, barely surviving studio, the future legendary CEO and renowned entrepreneur, Alexander, stared at me in disbelief. I nodded. "I believe your company has great potential and will achieve tremendous success in the future." No one could have imagined that the future business tycoon, someone who would dominate the corporate world, was now sobbing in front of me. "Miss Emily, don't worry. We won't let your money go to waste." I smiled. Of course, I wasn't worried. My investment wouldn't just avoid losses, it would yield massive returns. After signing the equity agreement, I headed to a newly launched real estate development. The sales office was deserted, with only 2 staff members on duty. "Hello, I'd like to buy some properties." They were stunned by my words. When they realized I was serious about purchasing homes in such a desolate area, they eagerly poured tea and gave detailed explanations. In less than half an hour, I finalized the purchase of 2 units. As I left, the staff beamed with joy, walking me out for quite a distance. With some money still left in my bank account, I debated whether to keep it as a backup or continue investing. While I was consumed with thoughts of making money, Sophia was busy tending to Lucas. She even made time to video call me to flaunt her situation. "Lucas said he'll propose to me once he recovers, Emily. You've already lost your chance." She turned the camera toward the hospital room, where I could see Lucas lying on the bed, his head wrapped in thick bandages. What happened to him? In my last life, he didn't injure his head like this. Sophia quickly moved the camera away, her tone sharp. "Stop talking about your past life. He's mine now." Later, a classmate came across a video online. It was from the day Lucas got into a car accident. In the video, a girl wearing a gray cotton linen dress wobbled toward a flipped, smoking car and dragged Lucas out of it. Seemingly terrified the car might explode, she dropped him twice during the rescue. Each time, Lucas's head hit the ground. Ha ha ha, I couldn't stop laughing. No wonder Lucas's head was wrapped in bandages. Sophia's rescue had caused secondary injuries. The class group chat buzzed with discussions. Was the girl rescuing him Sophia? Sophia, why were you suddenly playing the hero? Emily, do you know what happened? Since Sophia was in the group, I pretended to be dejected and replied, I have no idea. As for Sophia, she was too busy taking care of Lucas to check the chat. Turning off my phone, I took a bus to Hingyan Studios. As expected, I found the crew filming Blooming. This was a low-budget web series that later became a national sensation upon release. From the director to the cast, everyone skyrocketed to fame. The lead actor and actress even went on to win Best Actor and Best Actress, becoming legends of their generation. After careful consideration over a few days, I decided to invest some of my money in stocks and put the rest into this drama. Although the amount wasn't substantial, it was a lifeline for the struggling crew. The young director, Michael, was full of gratitude but also a bit uncertain. There's no guarantee this series will even air. What if? This series, though a period drama, subtly satirized contemporary realities, making it difficult to pass censorship. His concern was valid. But in my previous life, as Lucas's wife, I had overheard at a business banquet that a powerful investor had taken an interest in the series' commercial potential. With their backing, the series navigated all obstacles and employed cutting-edge marketing strategies, turning it into a dazzling success. The rise of this drama owed much to that investor's support. Even the later achievements of the Best Actor and Best Actress were partially thanks to capital's influence. Michael had nothing to worry about. Then, I'll try to visit the set more often when I have time. If you don't mind, Michael, I'd be happy to offer suggestions from a viewer's perspective. Michael's expression shifted ever so slightly, almost imperceptibly. As a forward-thinking, self-assured director, he clearly disliked outsiders meddling in his work. However, perhaps because I was the financier, he reluctantly nodded in agreement. Yet over the following months, although I occasionally visited the set, I never actually gave any suggestions. Instead, I used the money I earned from trading stocks to frequently treat the crew to meals, quickly building camaraderie with them. No matter how you look at it, befriending future famous actors can only be a good thing for me. Watching these young, inexperienced actors now, knowing that one day they'd shine brightly in the industry, filled me with a sense of accomplishment. Meanwhile, Lucas was discharged from the hospital. Although the bandages on his head hadn't been fully removed, he was finally able to move freely. Sophia clung to Lucas's arm as they exited the hospital, taking a picture and sending it to me. She captioned it, Emily, Lucas is throwing me a birthday party. Don't forget to come. Shortly after, she announced the party in the class group chat, inviting all our classmates with an unmistakable air of showing off. Our classmates, unaware of what had happened, eagerly congratulated Sophia on her relationship. At that moment, the future Best Actress was sitting next to me, fanning herself as she teased, once we finish filming, will we never see our sponsor sister again? She was only 2 months younger than me, yet hearing the future queen of the silver screen sweetly call me sponsor sister always made me giddy with excitement. I put down my phone and joked, probably not. Once this show airs, you'll all be megastars. You'll forget all about your poor little sponsor. She pouted, no way. Thanks to strategic investments, the drama smoothly passed censorship after production wrapped and premiered during the coveted summer holiday slot. Within 3 days of its release, it shot to the top of the trending charts. Over the next month, it broke viewership records like never before. As one of the investors, I suddenly found myself with more money than I could ever spend in a lifetime. Of course, spending it all would be impossible. But if I kept reinvesting, I'd be broke in no time. When Alexander learned of my additional investment in his company, he called me in utter shock. "Miss Emily, did you strike it rich?" I replied, "Just made a small profit from some recent ventures." In the future, Alexander's company would rival Lucas and the entire Lucas family. In my last life, I married into a wealthy family. This time, I'll become the wealthy family myself. Time flew by, and soon it was Sophia's birthday. She shared the venue details in the group chat, tagging me specifically to ensure I'd come. It was clear she couldn't wait to flaunt her triumph in front of me. I put on a red leather jacket, paired with studded boots, and hopped on my newly purchased sleek, powerful motorcycle. I rode to the hotel hosting her birthday party. As luck would have it, I arrived just in time to see Sophia and Lucas stepping out of their car at the hotel entrance. With a sharp stop, I parked my motorcycle horizontally in front of them. Taking off my helmet, I casually smoothed my freshly permed waves and curved my red lips into a slight smile. "Sophia, long time no see." Since the day I was reborn, Sophia hadn't returned to the dorm after leaving. She'd given up her education entirely for the sake of a man, seemingly prepared to entrust her whole life to him. Sophia froze, looking me up and down before exclaiming in surprise, "Emily?" In my previous life, I'd always dressed modestly and behaved quietly. Lucas claimed he liked my understated demeanor, when, in reality, it made me easier to control. After being reborn, I started experimenting with a bolder style, only to discover that it suited me much better. "What's the matter? A few months apart, and you don't recognize me anymore?" I turned to Lucas, pretending not to know him. "Is this your fiancé?" Lucas, ever the gentleman, nodded slightly. "Hello, I'm Lucas." The phrase, "a wolf in sheep's clothing," couldn't be more fitting. Sophia instinctively pursed her lips, her eyes full of wariness as she looked at me. "Lucas, you go inside first. I need to chat with my best friend for a moment." Once Lucas was gone, Sophia's usual gentle demeanor vanished. She frowned and said, "Don't think you can win Lucas's attention like this. I saved him. He promised to treat me well for the rest of my life." I crossed my arms and shook my head. "Sophia, men's words are nothing but lies. What makes you think a wealthy heir like Lucas would stay devoted to you forever?" Sophia snorted coldly, her tone triumphant. "You think I'm stupid? After we get married, I'll give him several children. Even if he strays in the future, I'll still be Mrs. Lucas, and my children will inherit the Lucas family legacy. Love or wealth, I'll secure at least one of them." Not bad. I had to admit, Sophia's cunning surprised me. But unfortunately for her, her grand dreams were destined to crumble. If everything were as perfect as she imagined, she wouldn't have ended up falling off a balcony with me over a mere $50,000 in our last life. Still, I could understand her naivety. Lucas's flawless facade had fooled me just as thoroughly in my previous life. I remembered how I'd saved him from that overturned car, badly injured. As the sole heir to the Lucas family, he began pursuing me relentlessly. He told me I was his destined soulmate. That every smile, every gesture of mine, enchanted him beyond reason. As an ordinary college student with no experience dealing with the harsh realities of life, how could I resist? Back then, Lucas was attentive and showered me with affection. Besides spoiling me with material gifts, he remembered every little thing I liked, finding ways to make me happy every single day. In just 2 months, I had completely fallen for him, believing he was my one true love. We seemed like a match made in heaven, so perfect it felt like a dream. Until the day the wedding ended. I saw Lucas passionately kissing a woman in the corner of the hallway. And that woman turned out to be his aunt, his mother's younger sister. At that moment, my entire worldview shattered. I've never been one for loud confrontations, but that day, I nearly lost control. When I tearfully asked for a divorce, Lucas grabbed my neck tightly, his face twisted into a cold, menacing expression I had never seen before. "Do you think the Lucas family is a place you can just come and go as you please? You're lucky I was willing to marry you, it's a blessing you could never deserve. If you don't behave like you used to, don't blame me for going after your parents or friends." Later, I learned the truth. Lucas pursued me and married me solely to appease his parents. To him, I wasn't a person, I was a puppet he could control at will. I once overheard a conversation between him and his aunt. He said, "You're the only one I love. I'll never have children with Emily. The future heir of the Lucas family must be ours." Oh, and by the way, he said the same thing to 3 other young female relatives in his family. And those were just the ones I knew about. That's when I realized the truth. Lucas didn't love anyone but himself. To him, women were nothing more than tools to satisfy his twisted desires, easily deceived playthings. And yet, he never revealed any of this before our marriage. Thinking about it now made me so nauseous I wanted to throw up. Even the exquisite and expensive dishes on the table lost all appeal. When my classmates heard that Sophia's fiancé was a wealthy heir, they were shocked. They egged her on to share how she met Lucas. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. While washing my hands, Sophia suddenly walked in, her face full of smugness. "Emily, you saw it just now, Lucas only has eyes for me now. Don't even think about trying anything to ruin our friendship." I glanced at her coolly. If I had wanted to do something, don't you think I would have done it by now? Also, there's no friendship left between us to ruin. Ha! Don't pretend. I know you're dying of jealousy. Too bad Lucas is mine now. No matter how jealous you are, it won't change anything. Ha ha ha. Sophia laughed gleefully. I resisted the urge to smirk, looking forward to the day she discovered Lucas's true nature. Would she still laugh so heartily then? When I returned to the private room, a familiar voice suddenly called out, "Sponsor sister?" I turned to see a group of familiar faces peeking out from the private room next door. Michael had previously invited me to a celebration banquet for the massive success of the drama. It would likely be hard for the crew to gather again in the future, but it happened to be the same day as Sophia's birthday, and I declined to see firsthand the love between her and Lucas. I hadn't expected the 2 parties to be held in the same hotel. "Amelia!" A starstruck girl from my class screamed in excitement. Then she spotted the future best actor behind Amelia, her eyes nearly popping out of their sockets. She looked ready to faint. Bloom, the drama we had invested in, had become the biggest sensation of the summer. Even classmates who didn't watch dramas knew its iconic moments because of how widely it was discussed and parroted online. Before long, Sophia's birthday party turned into a fan meet and greet for the cast of Bloom. After Amelia signed the last classmate's autograph, she grabbed my hand and said, "Sponsor sister, what a coincidence. Come have a drink with us next door." I gave in and joined their private room. The next morning, I woke up in my dorm room. My 2 other roommates surrounded me, bombarding me with questions about the previous night. "Amelia called you sponsor sister. Does that mean you invested in Bloom? That's amazing. You know such famous stars. Don't sleep, tell us everything." They dragged me out of bed. Before I could speak, Sophia scoffed coldly. "Where did you even get the money to invest?" I rubbed my eyes, surprised to see Sophia in our dorm. "Emily, I'm just saying, don't go doing anything shady just to one-up me," she sneered. I smirked faintly. "You're about to marry into a wealthy family. How could I possibly one-up you? Who knows? You managed to snag Lucas before, grabbing someone else would be easy for you, wouldn't it?" Sophia gave me a provocative look. I sighed helplessly. "Sophia, I'm not you. What's that supposed to mean?" Sophia snapped, instantly offended. I couldn't be bothered to argue further. I had an appointment with a lawyer today to discuss my father's infidelity while my mother was alive. Sophia and I were the same age, which meant my father had been unfaithful for at least 20 years. And yet, he and Grace were shamelessly living in the house my mother had left behind. The thought disgusted me. I needed to find a way to get them out. At the law office, Emma handed me a folder containing information she had gathered. Pointing to a document, she said, "Miss Emily, did you know that shortly before your mother's passing, your father purchased a substantial life insurance policy for her?" I shook my head. When my mother passed away, I was in my senior year of high school, busy with studies and rarely at home. I had never heard of such an insurance policy. Although it might sound like a conspiracy theory, Emma adjusted her glasses and continued, "My investigation shows there's something suspicious about your mother's car accident." When I stepped out of the law office and into the sunlight, I felt a chill all over my body. I hadn't known about the insurance policy. But thinking back, within 2 months of my mother's death, my father bought a car he had coveted for a long time. Coincidentally, Grace's family suddenly became well off too. Sophia replaced her entire wardrobe, started spending lavishly, and was no longer the thrifty girl she used to be. At the time, I thought it was odd but didn't dwell on it. Now, the fragmented memories pieced together like a jigsaw puzzle. Even just a glimpse of the truth was enough to send shivers down my spine. What had I been protecting in my previous life? Beep, beep. The sound of a car horn jolted me back to reality. I thought I was blocking someone's way and instinctively stepped back. To my surprise, the car suddenly stopped right in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Lucas's deceitful face. "Emily, it really is you," he said. I stared at him without moving, countless unpleasant thoughts racing through my mind. Why was Lucas here? What was he planning to do this time? Even though I had lived a second life, I could never fully let my guard down around Lucas. Lucas smiled, his usual wolf in sheep's clothing demeanor. "We saw each other last night at Sophia's birthday party. You haven't forgotten, have you?" I steadied myself and replied calmly, "What do you want?" Lucas smirked. "I find you very interesting. I'd like to talk with you. Would you give me the honor?" "Sorry, I'm busy. No time to chat," I said and turned to leave. But then Lucas spoke again. "Emily, why do I get the feeling you're afraid of me?" I stopped in my tracks. While sitting in the car, I received a call from my father. "Emily, did you sell the house your mother bought for you?" I glanced at Lucas, who was driving, and replied flatly, "Is there a problem?" "You ungrateful daughter. That was a gift from your mother, and you dared to sell it?" "Sophia said you invested in some web series, and it must have turned a profit by now." "So?" I responded. "So, transfer all the money to me immediately. I'll have Grace manage it for you so you won't waste it again." Hearing his calculating tone, I couldn't help but find it laughable. The house my mother gave me was always meant as an investment. She had once told me that if I ever needed money, I should sell it without hesitation. In my previous life, no matter how tough things got, I never sold it. Then a few years later, an earthquake struck. Although there were no casualties, the area suffered severe ground cracks and was classified as a high-risk zone. It became uninhabitable, let alone sellable. After my rebirth, I quickly sold the house, seizing the opportunity to reinvest in something more profitable. "Emily, are you listening?" My father was still ranting on the other end, demanding money. Taking a deep breath, I replied seriously, "Dad, this isn't wasting money. Mom visited me in a dream recently and told me to sell the house quickly before it lost value. Then she told me to invest in the web series. She must have shown Grace, too, since it's the one that's been really popular lately. I listened to her advice and made a huge profit." My father exploded in anger, yelling, "Emily, what nonsense are you spouting? Your mother treated you so well, and now you're wasting money and using her as a scapegoat? Has your conscience been eaten by dogs?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Didn't Mom treat you well too? Yet a few years after her death, you're already with her best friend. And now, with that kind of character, you have the audacity to lecture me and demand money? Keep dreaming, it's free in your sleep." I hung up and immediately blocked his number. Then, with a clear head, I messaged Emma, the lawyer. "No matter how much it costs, I need to uncover the truth about my mother's sudden death. If it turns out my father had anything to do with it, I'll never let him off." "Not on good terms with your family?" Lucas suddenly spoke. Still typing on my phone, I replied casually, "You could say that. We're like fire and water." "Well then, Miss Emily, let's get to the point. I'm in a bit of a hurry to cut ties with them." Lucas chuckled. "You don't seem like the kind of girl who would be so heartless." I rolled my eyes and didn't respond. A while later, he stopped the car in front of a restaurant, stepping out to open the door for me in a feigned gentlemanly manner. "Let's talk over a meal." I got out of the car, and before I had even walked far into the restaurant, Sophia rushed in. This was thanks to the shared location invite I had sent her while on the road. I didn't even have to say anything for Sophia to immediately figure out that I was with Lucas. "Lucas, what are you doing here?" Sophia pretended it was a chance encounter. "Oh, Emily's here too. What a coincidence." I curved my lips slightly and played along. "Yes, quite the coincidence." Lucas's gaze shifted between Sophia and me for a moment before he walked up and wrapped his arm around Sophia's waist. "I ran into Emily by chance, so we decided to grab lunch together. You won't be mad, will you, darling?" Sophia blushed and twisted shyly in his embrace, showing just how understanding she was. "Emily's my best friend. Why would I be mad? Besides, I'll always trust you." With Sophia around, Lucas didn't say much else to me. After lunch, I excused myself and left. Not long after, my phone buzzed incessantly. It was message after message from Sophia. "Why were you having lunch with Lucas? He's mine now, don't even think about taking him. We're getting engaged soon. You wouldn't want people calling you a mistress, would you? Next time, don't let me see you with Lucas, or I won't care about our years of friendship. Emily, answer me." It seemed Sophia was genuinely afraid I'd take away her trash. Before long, she and Lucas held their engagement party. Of course, she didn't forget to send me an invitation. I stared at the invitation in my hand, excitement flickering in my eyes. All my patience in enduring Lucas's nauseating face that day had finally paid off. Their engagement was about to begin. At the party, I saw my father and Grace. They acted like a comedy duo, one playing the stern figure, the other the kind peacemaker. Truly entertaining. At first, I kept a cold expression, but as Grace continued to persuade me, I appeared to soften, as though I was reconsidering. Stall them for now, then strike when they least expect it. Sophia approached me in an expensive gown, leaning close to speak in a volume only I could hear. "Sorry, Emily, but this time, it's my turn to live the luxurious life." Feigning curiosity, I asked, "Have you two registered your marriage yet?" If not, before I could finish, Sophia pulled 2 marriage certificates out of her bag. They were hers and Lucas's. In that moment, I let out a long breath of relief. "Don't worry, I'm not interested in competing with you for this extravagance." Under her skeptical gaze, I smiled and walked out of the banquet hall, dialing Emma's number. It's time to settle all the grudges and debts from both past and present. "President Emily, you're truly young and accomplished. If you come across any good investment opportunities, please let me know." The next time I saw Sophia was at a business banquet. Though she was dressed extravagantly, her eyes couldn't hide their weariness. By now, she must have seen Lucas's true colors. As for me, I'd spent these years using the foresight from my previous life to invest in countless promising projects. Unwittingly, I had become a trendsetter in the investment world. Anything I deemed worthy caused a frenzy, with many scrambling to invest just to claim a piece of the pie. But I knew such a position wouldn't last forever. After graduation, I joined Alexander's company, requesting to start at the bottom to hone my skills. One can never have too many tools in their arsenal. As in my past life, Alexander treated all his investors fairly and spared no effort in supporting me as a major shareholder. It was as if he wanted to pass on everything he'd learned in his lifetime. Now, standing amidst the banquet's business moguls, I found myself handling it all with ease. "President Emily, we meet again," Lucas said, approaching me with Sophia by his side, his usual pretentious smile firmly in place. He mentioned a project he'd previously brought up, a project that, in my past life, had caused him to lose a significant amount of money. That loss had frustrated him for a long time, to the point where he even lost interest in his usual indulgences with his mistresses. Back then, I was so afraid he'd take his anger out on me that I walked on eggshells every day, trying to be as invisible as possible. Now, I swirled the wine in my glass gently, giving him a deliberately enigmatic smile. If President Lucas is interested in this project, it must be promising. The moment I finished speaking, Sophia, who had been dazed, suddenly looked up at me, her gaze flickering with a glimmer of hope. Emily. Tilting my head slightly, I asked, "What is it, Sophia?" She instinctively reached out toward me. I knew very well, it was a plea for help. But before her hand could touch mine, Lucas intercepted it. Gripping her wrist tightly, he said with a facade of calm, "Darling, let's head over there. Let's not disturb President Emily." As he pulled her away, Sophia glanced back at me repeatedly, step by step. By the end of the banquet, I stepped out to the garden for some air. Sophia suddenly ran over, gripping my shoulders with reddened eyes. You knew all along," she accused. I calmly removed her hands from my shoulders, adjusting my posture leisurely. "How's that luxurious life treating you?" Her emotions erupted, and she pointed at me, screaming, "Emily, you wretched woman. You knew about Lucas's true nature, yet you watched as I walked into this trap. You did this on purpose. You wanted to ruin me." Watching her hysterics, I couldn't help but laugh. "That day, you locked me in the bathroom so you could go find Lucas. After that, you clung to him every day, dreaming of marrying into wealth. If I remember correctly, I even warned you at some point. And what did you say back then? You said you'd give Lucas a bunch of children and that even without love, you'd still have riches and glory, right? It's been so long. Why haven't you had any kids yet? Did you change your mind?" Sophia trembled all over, glaring at me with hatred. Just when I thought she'd lash out, she dropped to her knees before me with a loud thud. "Emily, it's all my fault. Please help me. If I stay in Lucas's household any longer, I'll go insane. Lucas has a violent temper. He hits me at the slightest provocation. I can't take it anymore. Emily, for the sake of our years of friendship, I'm begging you. Please help me." Looking at her tearful face, I felt nothing. I reached out and helped her to her feet, speaking softly. "Don't worry, I'll help you." Sophia's eyes lit up, as though she'd grabbed onto her last lifeline. But she would soon understand. A lifeline can't save her, it will only drag her deeper into despair. After that day, Sophia kept calling me, asking when I'd help her. Looking at the evidence Emma had meticulously gathered over the years, I let out a long breath. Tomorrow. The next day, both my father and Grace were arrested. Initially, they vehemently denied everything, insisting my mother's death was an accident. But when piece after piece of evidence pointing to murder was presented, they broke down completely. Not only were they facing charges for murder, but they also had to answer for insurance fraud. The enormous insurance payout they'd received over the years was nearly gone. Realizing they couldn't turn to me, they went to Sophia instead. After all, in their eyes, Sophia was now a wealthy socialite. Even if she didn't have much else, she surely had money to spare. Before Sophia could recover from the shock of her parents' arrest, the Lucas family, having learned the truth, immediately pulled strings to fast-track the divorce. The entire process was handled without informing Sophia. She wasn't even required to be present. When she showed up at the entrance of my company holding her divorce certificate, I was already on a plane. I had anticipated that she would come to find me. With her shameless persistence, she'd definitely cling to me, begging for help, not just for herself, but also for her murderous parents. To avoid ruining my mood, I had planned a travel itinerary well in advance. 2 months later, I received an update from my company back home. The project Lucas had invested in had run into major issues, not only incurring massive financial losses but also leading to legal troubles. In a desperate bid to protect Lucas, their only son, the Lucas family had poured out an enormous amount of resources. It would likely take them years to recover, leaving them unable to stir up any significant waves in the meantime. Standing on a beach and gazing at the rolling waves in the distance, I grabbed my surfboard. The mood was perfect for surfing today.